I'm Dr. Paula Smith, and I am an associate professor in education, leadership, and policy, and I'm also the director of graduate studies.
I'm William Smith, Dr. William Smith. I'm the Chief Executive Administrator at the Huntsman Mental Health Institute. I'm a distinguished professor in the Department of Psychiatry, Education, Culture, and Society, and also the Ethics Studies program. I got recruited out of Illinois to come here to be part of the Ed Studies program. I never thought about Utah as a career, right? But my wife had done corporate work in Utah. It was one of her areas, so she said, just go and take a look. And I did, fell in love with it. It was beautiful.
And for me, the opportunity to work with professionals who work at the state level in the field of prevention, for me, has just been tops. Being able to collaborate with those state level people to really implement systems and policies within the state of Utah to really help protect kids and help them avoid substances and, have their mental health be taken care of as well.
You have to pay things forward. We were very blessed with mentors in our life, people who would show us the roads, show us the hurdles, things that we needed to do to be the best professionals that we can possibly be. And we knew coming here that everybody needs a role model, irrespective of their racial identities, right? But when you're underrepresented, it even is that much more significant that you show up and do things for people so they can imagine themselves in those positions. If they only imagine the things that you're represented in, and those aren't very diverse opportunities, then their imagination is limited. And for us, we knew that if we played just even a small role, that we can provide opportunity, because opportunity leads to access, access leads to you being the best person that you could possibly be, fulfilling those types of dreams.
The diversity has certainly increased, and that's been a welcome, right? But it's also just making people feel like Utah can be a good space for them to be in. So it's been just such a pleasure to see the growth and opportunity that has presented itself here, being able to engage that in a way that really benefits not only us as faculty, but then staff and students.
I think anything less is selfish. If somebody's blessed you, has been there for you, shown up for you, provided counsel, talked to you in some of your times where you're not feeling great, and then you keep that to yourself, that's one of the most selfish things that you can possibly do. And so to be able to give that to the next generation, or even to your peers, they might admire something that you accomplished. How can I get there? And so those things are critically important to share with other people, especially when somebody shared it with you. You can't just have gold and then you bury the gold in your backyard. Nobody benefits from it and you pass on, right?
For me, when I was teaching undergraduates, one of the most profound things that happened to me is most of the undergraduates were from Utah, and they told me, like, this is the first time I've ever had a Black professor, ever had a Black teacher. And I was like, well, yeah, I believe that that's true. And a lot of them also came to me and said, I don't really have a culture. Yeah, you do. You do. You just don't realize it because you're so immersed in it and you're so around everybody who's just like you, so you don't realize that you have a culture, but you actually do. And here are the ways that we're gonna make sure that your culture also impacts future generations for the good.
One thing is you have to make them believe outside of their limitations. So sometimes people will cap, this is about as good as I can be. And they don't realize that if you push them even more and you raise the bar and you have high expectations, most people will meet them. And coming from an athletic background too, it's like if you have a trainer or assistant coach who's working with you in your position, they're gonna push you, make you better, make you do reps. And those reps are going to show up later when you play in a game. So for students, the same thing is true. We have to make them see the big picture, believe in themselves enough, and know that it's hard work. Nothing comes easy that you're going to really be satisfied with. So the things that we work hard to accomplish, and then we feel that we put in all our effort, it's a sweet experience.
The contributions that Black and African American people have made, not only to this country, but to the world, and really honoring that history and really letting the current and future generations know about that history, because it's an important history that often goes understudied and neglected.
Well, I think in the 26 years that we've been here, it's just continued to grow. And some of that foundational growth have to go back to people like Dr. Ronald Coleman, who was a student here, student athlete, came back, got his doctorate degree in history, became an associate vice president for diversity, and Dr. Wilford Samuels, who was in the communications department and ethnic studies, who led the charge for recognizing Black History Month at this campus and MLK Week. So those were critically important people, but then they passed the baton on to others. My wife was an associate vice president for a while here, and she had to participate in carrying that mantle on to the next generation. So it's been a marathon. I would say approach it with pride, right? Black history is American history, so we all can embrace it, right? Carter G. Woodson, he said that that week at that time, that month, was supposed to be a test for the 11 months that you studied the history. It wasn't just supposed to be a month of celebration. It was celebration, but testing your knowledge based upon what you learned throughout the year. So it was a culmination that February.
I would really love for students to be able to embrace the history and the honest history of Black struggle in this country, and really be able to embrace it not only this month, but as you were saying, within the whole year, right? Because it's not just a 1 month celebration.
Athletes are always seen as someone who is important in some regard on the college campus. And so we always have to remember that we're more than just athletes, that there's a student in front of that. And then student means that we have to be involved. So that means we have to show up just like we show up on the field or the court or whatever. After all this is said and done, there's another sport that we're going to have to be great at, and that's the sport of life. We have a professor in this department, Education, Culture, and Society, Dr. Alex Hires, European American professor, one of the best historians on Black history that we have on this campus. Mm-hmm. So it's not just something that African Americans do, it's all people. And he had enough respect and interest and saw the importance of the lessons that people can learn from this history that he got a PhD in it. I think athletes, because of the recognition that we get, we need to go out and make sure that we contribute in other areas as well. And one of those areas is to contribute to Black history, whether it's as a teacher, whether it's as a lawyer. You can continue. Like you said a few minutes ago, in the history of this university, as long as we've been doing distinguished professors, I'm the first Black, first African American distinguished professor. I would have hoped that would have occurred a long time ago, but the fact still remains that glass ceiling is finally broken. So now let's make sure, and one of my charges is not just to see that other Black faculty become a distinguished professor, but other people who need to be noticed and recognized needs to get that opportunity as well.